George Washington and Benjamin Franklin are two of the most well-known figures in American history. I mean, everyone's heard of Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln, at least to a certain extent. However, very few people know about a person by the name of John Glover and his Marbleheaders. Despite this, their unwavering efforts may have had a significant impact on the direction of the American Revolution. This is the story of John Glover, a true Liberty's hero. After his father's death, John Glover and his mother relocated to Marblehead, Massachusetts. He began his apprenticeship as a shoemaker before deciding to pursue a career in the sea. He was able to purchase his own fishing schooner, and as a result of hard work and determination, became a commercial success. Over time, he expanded his fleet and established himself as one of the most powerful men in Marblehead. And by 1760, John had taken a stand against Great Britain's assault on individual rights, and he put everything on the line. Colonel Glover was in command of the Marblehead militia by the time the first shots were fired in Lexington, Massachusetts. They aided in the defense of Boston and the construction of fortifications along the shore. Over the course of this time, he developed a connection with General George Washington. When Washington made the decision to establish a navy, he asked John Glover with the task of procuring ships and modifying them for military purposes. His choice delivered its first results within a short period of time. John Glover, along with his men, took the HMS Nancy, which was carrying a cargo of guns, flints, and ammunition at the time. General George Washington dispatched his army to New York City in anticipation of a British attack on the city. By the 30th of June, 1776, there were 130 British ships anchored in the harbor. And on July 12th, an additional 150 troops joined them, bringing the total number of British soldiers to more than 30,000. Washington was up against a huge force with only a poorly trained militia on his side. And on the 27th of August, British General Howe launched an offensive on Long Island, and Washington established a base in Brooklyn Heights. Washington's men were in imminent risk of death because of their lack of adequate ammo. It was a foregone conclusion that the men would be routed and the American army would be destroyed. John Glover, a trusted friend of Washington, was called in. Glover and his men transported 9,000 men, as well as their supplies and ammunition, horses, and artillery, to New York City. Howe reassembled and proceeded to cut off Washington's retreat. However, Glover positioned his soldiers behind the stone barriers, causing Howe's advance to be significantly hindered and ultimately halted. The British suffered higher losses at White Plains than they did at Long Island, and the delay allowed Washington to relocate to White Plains. Despite the fact that they survived, the American army was in imminent danger because they were nearing the end of the year and the voluntary soldiers' term of enlistment was about to expire. Morale was incredibly low and supplies were non-existent. Washington, therefore, in desperation, took a risky and dramatic step forward. First, he persuaded his troops to remain with them for a short period of time. After that, it was necessary to cross a frozen Delaware River in order to attack the British force in Trenton, New Jersey. Again, guess who Washington called? You guessed it, John Glover. He and his men maneuvered a frozen river, a winter storm, and transported troops, artillery, supplies, and other effects to the other side of the river. Glover was instrumental in achieving a successful outcome for the third time. The army crossed the river, seized the garrison, and captured more than 900 Hessian mercenaries in the process of doing so, all on Christmas night. Washington had finally achieved victory, which helped to bolster morale and keep his men on the battlefield. Glover, after this amazing victory, returned home because his wife was ill and he needed to attend to some personal business. And when he was promoted to Brigadier General in February of 1777, he actually turned it down. But he returned to the battlefield and accepted the promotion after receiving a personal invitation and request from General George Washington. For the remainder of the war, John Glover remained stationed along the Hudson River, keeping an eye out for the British attempts to advance up the river from New York to take their encampment. Washington, his army, and the war might have been lost had it not been for John Glover. John Glover is a true Liberty's hero. And if you enjoyed this content where we talk about forgotten Liberty's heroes, then please check out our Patreon right here below. It's patreon.com/Red Liberty Media, also in the description below as well. This helps us to grow and to keep pushing out this kind of content so you can understand and learn about our fabulous history and what makes a Liberty's hero. My name is Kyle Suggs of The Conservative Take for Red Liberty Media.